This is the Left and Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage.
I'm Nancy Richards eating pistachios.
Yes, and we are coming at you at a very challenging but also kind of an exciting week. It's Thursday, March 26th, so we are at No King's Eve Eve.
No King's Eve Eve.
Although by the time this is put out, this will
It'll be
be
no
No
King's
King's
Eve.
Eve, No King's Eve. And we've got back-to-back episodes this week, one with a very special guest and the one that we're recording right now. And uh, there's so much to just discuss. It's almost by the minute that things are happening. I would say that probably the biggest, most pressing story is what's happening at the airports right now. And you're a frequent traveler, Nancy, and
I'm
you
gonna
are going
be
to
in.
be you're
Yep.
going to be traveling soon. And so, what are your impressions of what's happening?
So I don't know if you recall, but they're showing a lot of pictures of Houston. You and I flew out of Houston
We did.
when we went to Mexico. Do you remember when we walked to the hotel? We walked underneath that long, um, it was like a walkway underneath. Remember there was
Yes,
no train.
yes, and we had to. We
We
were
had
we
we
were pushing our It was like an Olympic challenge. We were pushing our.
remember
Yeah,
how long that was?
yeah,
Well, people are waiting downstairs. There's a line that goes up and back and up and back again. That's how long, and you and I walked that. You
we
know how
did. It
it
was
took
long.
us like
Yeah,
a half hour.
yeah.
Like it was a long walk. And that's where the line is starting and then it goes upstairs. And then there's a line, then there's the regular TSA line. That's Houston. So don't get any flights out of Houston. Like don't do that. Like pay money, get a direct flight because
Yeah.
it's crazy. So it's insane.
Well, for a confluence of factors. I mean, there's you have the obvious delays brought on by TSA workers who are not being paid at the moment, not coming into work, and rightfully so. Why would you do that when you're not getting anything out of it? And
Well, also they have to go get
to
another
job,
job
yeah.
because they're not getting paid and they have to pay their bills. So they're taking other jobs, so they're not going to work because they have to
Absolutely.
work.
Yeah. And uh, this chaos is caused by Donald Trump and Donald Trump alone. There have been 8 bills so far that have offered to fund TSA. Republicans have rejected every single one of them.
At the direction of Donald Trump.
Yeah, in fact, Senate Majority Leader John Thune actually brought a compromise deal to the president. The president said, don't make any deals with Democrats. And so this is squarely on Donald Trump. And just for our listeners, who may not be as clued in on the background, Democrats are insisting on reforms and changes to ICE and Border Patrol and their enforcement mechanisms and how they conduct their business before they are given any more funding. And by the way, ICE has plenty of funding because of that monstrosity bill that was passed last year.
Because they're actually being funded. So while they're at the airports standing around doing nothing, because they can't do anything, because they're not trained in TSA, so they can only monitor things. Um, but I stood there and watched two ICE agents look at their phones while a TSA agent is directing traffic. So I don't know what they're doing there, but they're just a reminder to TSA that they're getting paid. They're getting paid, and TSA is not getting paid. And you have to ask yourself, why is that allowed to happen? And the reason is because Donald Trump will not allow Democrats and Republicans to compromise on something in the meantime until they figure out what they're going to do with Homeland Security.
Well, in fact, John Thune actually came up with a compromise that would work well for the Republicans, and actually, Democrats wouldn't get very much out of it. The compromise was they would not fund ICE or Border Patrol in the funding of the TSA and those bills, those standalone bills, but they would force it through a reconciliation. And so, essentially, Donald Trump would get what he wants either way. He's just throwing a tantrum essentially, because he does not want to give Democrats a win. And I will say right now on this podcast, Democrats, especially Chuck Schumer and Senate and moderate Democrats, there's a certain crew of them who we can never exercise this kind of leverage with because they will always cave. Do not cave. Donald Trump is on the ropes because of this. He is at his level in his second term. He's at 36% approval. Right now, according to Quinnipiac, 41%, according to a Fox News poll. Uh, So he is on the ropes, as are Republicans. And so exercise this as leverage. You carry this forward.
But do
Fuck.
it smart. Don't stand in front of a podium, like reading like how what they're not doing. Talk about what you are. Talk about those. Talk about when they were proposed and who voted for them and who didn't vote for them and what was in them. Let people know that you are doing something as opposed to just complaining. Okay, the Democrats are proposing bills, and inform them about that. Stand in front of the podium and do that.
Absolutely. And do not listen to people like John Fetterman or Catherine Cortez Masto or Jackie Rosen or Maggie Hassan or Jean Shaheen or Tim Kaine or any of the other senators who typically cave in this kind of situation because they're so afraid the Democrats will be the ones who get the political blowback. They will not. And in fact, the polling has shown that. And in fact, I saw some man on the street interviews with travelers who were standing at airports, and one was asked, who do you blame these issues at the travel at the airports? And squarely they said Donald Trump.
Really? I haven't
Yes,
heard that.
I've heard. I saw it. There were two or three travelers that I saw in succession that were interviewed, and they said, "Well, we blame Donald Trump for this,"
Well,
and they should
I've
be.
heard a little of everything. I've heard people say, I don't know and I don't care. Just pay those people
Yeah.
because I'm standing online. And I hear a lot of that. I know a lot of people aren't they're not blaming Democrats, but there's not an outrage yet over this is a Donald Trump issue. But I think the more and more he's just, lighting his fires everywhere. I mean, aside from the fact of what else he's doing, this is actually contributing as well. But Democrats, please be smart about this. Don't cave in, absolutely right,
Mhm.
but inform people as to what you've been trying to do while you're at this stalemate. And
eight
then
eight separate bills, eight separate times Republicans have voted against funding TSA. Not because they don't want to. They've made clear behind the scenes that they are willing, if the president would uh, support their efforts, that they would absolutely be willing to fund TSA. But the president is the one who ultimately has the say at the moment right now in the Republican Party, and he is not allowing anything to go forward because of that. And because his explicit instructions to congressional Republicans is to not allow or not to do any deals with Democrats.
absolutely. So, I just forgot my train of thought in regards to what I was going to say about
Well, it's and
Democrats.
yeah, and Democrats so oftentimes feel like they have to be the adults in the room. They have to be the white knight. They have to be the ones who step in and save the day. In this case, I would allow it to kind of burn before that happens because, it's the polling has showed clearly this is on Donald Trump. This is on Donald Trump and nobody else. And in fact, he's politically extremely vulnerable at the moment. And so press that advantage. Uh, Democrats in most recent generic polling on the generic ballot, I think, are at a 13-point lead at this point, as far as the generic ballot. And that translates to over 240 House seats in the midterms. And
Well, he
so,
has a 59% disapproval rating.
yeah, and so poly market, which is not reliable, it's basically just gambling on the future and current events, basically has the odds of Democrats taking back the House at a all-time high. And actually, there's some movement now about talking about the Senate, that there may be 52 Senate seats for Democrats.
Great. That would be great. But this week they need to make a deal. Republicans need to come in and make a deal with TSA because starting next week you have spring break. You have people going, it's the start of a holiday season. And so something needs to be done because you think the lines are crazy now.
Yeah,
Wait till next week.
absolutely. And I just
And,
am.
and I'm sorry, just the fact that people aren't getting paid, like they can't. I just imagine not getting a paycheck for 3 months.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. My house would be in default.
Yeah. And so I don't like, I hate when federal workers are the collateral damage in
Yeah,
these kind of political games. And so that shouldn't, that, uh, so on the one hand, we do understand the urgency that some of these moderates might feel in terms of wanting to make a deal, even if it's not the most perfect. But right now, the
But
Dem,
if they're gonna cave,
yeah,
they should cave at the very beginning,
yeah.
not hold on and then cave. Like that's just like
Well, that's a
why did you
very
do it in the first place then?
Well, that's a very Schumer-like tactic, and that's a very, that's a very Schumer-like tactic. And if it's not his directly, he gives permission to those others to go off and do that. And so they shouldn't do that. They should exercise the leverage that they have right now. Republicans are the ones who, and our guest in the episode we just recorded said it perfectly. He said that they want to inflict damage and suffering on people just to cause leverage. So when people are not getting paychecks, it's because of Republicans at this point. And Democrats have proposed 8 different times to do this, and they have not gone along with it. And they could have solved this very easily within the last week by voting in support of one of these bills. And
And they didn't.
they didn't. And actually, John Thune again proposed this to the president and basically said, funding ICE will come through a reconciliation bill, which they don't need Democrats for. And so, and he still rejected it.
Oh, this is what I remembered, I forgot. So what's happening now is the airline industry has said, all right, you're not going to fund, you're going to cause this havoc. Well, Congress, we just stripped Delta stripped the congressional privileges that they get in regards to skipping the lines, and they get some certain perks because they need the airlines to travel to go back and forth. So they're waiting online like everybody else now. And
Well, I saw now.
I think the next thing that we should do is not pay Congress.
Well, yeah.
I think they shouldn't get a paycheck.
The only ones who I saw that was still, exercising some kind of airline privilege was Nancy Mace. She was being escorted past all the lines, very Marie Antoinette.
I don't know if well Delta's not giving it to anyone now. So I don't know what she was flying, but
Yeah.
Delta is saying no one's getting it. So
Yeah.
good for Delta. So let's go United. Let's you next. So
Absolutely. And I think we need to, so again, our hope is that we are seeing uh, hopefully a deal within the next few days to fund TSA. And, Trump responds to these kinds of market pressures when there's issues at the airport and air travel is affected. And the markets have responded as well.
can we
The markets have responded as well, and
can
so
we
that's what he
go
responds
into
to.
a bit of insider trading that happened this week
Well,
in regards to Trump making an announcement, but about in regards to something going on. There might be a deal with Iran and oil futures.
mhm.
Before he said that, futures skyrocketed, and so there was a lot of money. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump made this announcement, um, which caused the market to go up. And so that day, once again, some money was made.
Well, and now also we have, gambling and things like Kalshi and Poly Market that
But
basically are
this
this
is
is the
a
stock market.
right, but this is the thing is with the futures going up right before he made that announcement, it that needs to be investigated. But the problem is it's not going to be investigated because who's going to go in the SEC and they're not going to go
You
Pam
know,
Bondi, they're not going to investigate that. Not at all.
not as long as the Dow
And
is at 50,000.
you're
Like,
but they're not going to make that a priority
yeah.
because I wonder who had that information.
Well, yeah, and actually, somebody, Jen Psaki was covering it a couple of nights ago, and Rachel Maddow was too, that somebody was placing bets on Polymarket and Kalshi, so some of the betting markets about things that might happen in the war in Iran. And then when Trump made announcements about referring to those things, they cashed in. They made all this money. And so, unfortunately, when you have completely unregulated markets, this is what happens.
I think it's sick that Stephen Smith, who sometimes he just goes off on tangents I can't
Oh,
stomach,
that.
but I was listening to him the other day, and I liked his anger in essence of he was just when he's angry he just
Mhm.
says it like it is, but I just don't always agree with him, but he made like he was pissed off and rightfully so. He's like, the president, his family, they're making money and people are not getting paychecks. That is fundamentally wrong. The president and the Trump family are profiting from his administration, and there are people who are not getting paid, and he's stopping deals from being made because he wants the Save Act pact, so he won't lose an election because he can't make popular choices. He's making choices that are destroying this country, and so he's not going to win an election based off what he did because he sucks lately. So he's in a war that nobody wants. He's you know, or gas prices are up, inflation is up, things are not better. So he's not going to win this midterm. So what does he want to do? He wants to rig the election.
Well, he wants to cheat, and the
And,
Supreme Court
well, he
has
wants to
figured it.
suppress the, I don't want to use his words, but he wants to suppress, he wants to use voter suppression. So
With
it's
the,
going to
with
make it more difficult.
Well, absolutely, and with an assist from the Supreme Court, who indicated this week that they are open to, invalidating ballots that are postmarked by Election Day that make it to local election boards and their offices after Election Day. So that he's getting an assist from his handpicked Supreme Court in doing that. And
Like, so the question here is, when you file your taxes, because I went and got my taxes done yesterday, and Nicole Malliotakis, I did not, I'm still paying more taxes. So I don't know where this tax cut came from, but it certainly didn't come into my tax bracket. So, but the fact of the matter is that when we pay taxes, if we postmark out, we go to the post office and we get April 15th, it still counts as getting in our taxes on time. So it's okay to pay our taxes that way, but you can't vote that way as long as you have a postmark that you got in your voter ballot by,
when it,
election day,
yeah.
whatever, like if it's November 4th
Hmm.
and it's postmarked, it doesn't count with the postmark. That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Oh, it is bullshit. And but again, they know that based on the merits, they can't win. So what are they going to do? They're going to suppress their vote. They're going to limit drop boxes. They're going to screw around with the mail-in voting. I'm still convinced, I don't know, they haven't said anything, but I am convinced, well, Steve Bannon actually said they want to do this. They want to have ICE surrounding the poll places. And so,
Because Steve Bannon knows if
yeah.
Republicans lose, he's going to get arrested. Because he said it. He said it. I posted it on my stories.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time. He spent a few months in jail for defying a congressional subpoena in the Biden administration, but uh, that's why they want to do this. This is voter suppression, and Donald Trump knows that the gravy train that he's been making for the last
It's going to
almost
be
2 years,
over.
it's going to be 2 years, it's going to be over because Democrats will have subpoena power and they will investigate everything from the Epstein files to his crypto scam to his Qatar plane to all of it. And that is going to be the end of his gravy train, or at least it'll make life somewhat more difficult for him in his last 2 years.
Definitely going to make life more difficult. And hopefully, things that we can progress forward is as opposed to like simple things like with ICE, like why why can't they not wear masks? I mean,
They're not wearing masks at the airport.
they're not wearing masks at the airport. And here's the other thing. Donald Trump talks about, mail-in ballots. Last election, he used a mail-in ballot. His wife used one. And he publicly said, he goes, well, I need to, because I'm the president. It's like, oh, you get special treatment, so it's okay that you have a voter ballot. And then he's like, well, sometimes there are exceptions that people need. Exactly. That's what voter
That's
ballots are
that's
for.
that's what they're for. I
You
remember
know,
one of the well,
I'd rather go vote in public, but
yeah,
if I'm going to be away, I'd
yeah.
rather have
Well, I one of the things that I talk about fairly frequently when this issue comes up is that one of the last things I ever did with my grandmother was help her fill out her absentee ballot in 2013 for the mayoral election. And she was in her 80s and shows she needed help on figuring out where to sign and where the postage goes and all that stuff. And so, so people who are elderly, people who are
Did you
disabled.
have to fill out three of them? Just kidding. Because we're
We're fraud.
fraudsters.
Well, yeah, I know. I was, yeah, I was
One for
bad.
me, one Good for you.
I was
Yeah.
ballot harvesting. Vote frequently and vote
Yeah, the
often.
Democrats did say that. That
Yeah,
was our slogan back
yeah.
in the 1800s.
Vote
Vote
early
regularly,
and vote
vote often.
often.
Yeah.
Yes, that was it. And no, yeah, but it was, people like her absolutely needed to do it because there was no way somebody in her age group
Yeah.
was going to stand in a long line and go through all that trouble. And so, that was one of the last things I did with her, and I was really happy that that was one of the last things I did with her. And so, I think people who are elderly, people who are disabled, certainly people who are in the military and are traveling overseas and who may want to vote before they go, absolutely should have the option. We
I
should,
also know that their vote's going to count.
yeah,
Like it.
without these fascists threatening to screw around with it.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things we have to do is to just make sure the vote is free and fair. Although my suspicion at this point, and I'm knocking on wood because I'm out of the prediction games here, I'm thinking just now that the sea change is going to be so big, it's going to be too big to rig because you had local elections taking place on Tuesday night this past week in
Yeah.
Florida,
Yeah.
deep red Florida. And Democrats won or overperformed in those state legislative races, one of which was a district that encompasses none other than Mar-a-Lago, Donald
Yes.
Trump's
Oh,
primary
yes.
residence.
I
The
heard that.
Donald Trump's state representative in Florida is a Democrat.
Good.
It is a
And I
Democrat.
hope that makes him poop his pants a little more.
Well, yeah, and that was the election he voted in his mail-in ballot for. So I guess, the mail-in ballot, I guess,
Didn't work
even
for
his
him.
presidential ballot didn't work. And so, and I think, because and that was a district he won, I think, in 24 by about 14 points. And so it really shifted in the other direction, and for good reason. These people are not doing anything for you. He is enriching himself. He is doing a power grab at every single turn and nothing for the American people. I mean, that woman that we played the video from last week, she was so right. It's just a worthless pile of shit. Just a worthless pile of shit.
He's destroying this country. He's not, he's destroying this country. I'm sorry. He's making it unsafe for people to go overseas as Americans. I mean, someone who travels overseas, I'm concerned about traveling, like and going different places. I'm still going, but um I I just think he's made us a target. He's
Well,
got
State Department issued an advisory for travelers that are American everywhere.
yeah, that they did. It happens a lot. It's not like it, but it's back again, it's so get out your Maple Leaf t-shirts, but no, but it just makes it it's kind of go A. My name
Well,
is Nancy, A.
I'm
So
from Toronto.
A,
I got out.
A.
I got out.
But yeah, we have a war that by choice, a war by choice, that he had no real game. I don't think he had any real plan as to what he's doing. He every day he changes his mind, and his and his Department of Defense war guy, he's like, this is not a video game. I don't think they know what they're really got themselves into. And the reason why I say that is because they had no plan for their people who were in the Middle East, embassies, people who worked there. There was no exit strategy for them to leave.
Or any
And
contingency
and
plan.
Carolyn Levitt goes, well, we did a lot. We offered, a level 4. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's for traveling. This is for people who are working. It's like, am I gonna go travel and visit Saudi Arabia? Let me look at the travel advisory. Oh, it's a level 4. No, I'm not going to go. But people who are actually there, did somebody call them say, you better get the fuck out this week?
Hmm.
And, no, no, they didn't do that. So they put those people in jeopardy. So they don't think about they don't, he acts, he reacts at the hip. And this is where he's a bad president. And people might think, oh, he's showing might. No, he's making poor decisions, which is affecting our economy. He promised he was going to lower prices. He was going and
Well, I remember him. I'm old enough to remember him during the campaign in 2024, standing out in front of his Bedminster golf course with cereal boxes, talking about how expensive things were. And now, affordability is not only a Democratic hoax, but we're also being gaslit into thinking that everything's great. And so I think that this as it relates to the war, another thing that they didn't plan for is the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, so that people are
I don't think that that was not going
yeah,
to close.
the ship is being attacked. The ships are being attacked, and
It's 20 inches over
yeah,
there. Like, you don't think Iran's not going to fuck with like
yeah.
that area? Like,
Well, and that's why I think
oh
this
shit.
is, and
Like,
that's why I think this. Yeah.
like, like
Yeah, go
what? You're an idiot. Like,
ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, you just bombing? No, you could still do business. Go ahead, go ahead. No, I'm gonna put my no, you ain't fucking going anywhere. Fuck
Well,
you.
I think he thought this was going to be a Venezuela situation. We're just going to take out the leader and that's it and leave the rest to them. But it hasn't proved that way because Iran's uh, Iran's regime is a extremely complex
It's a hornet's
machinery.
nest.
It's a big complex machinery, and there was no way that a member of this regime was going to go down without a fight. And he wasn't going to drag him to a prison in Brooklyn. That was certainly not the case like
Yeah.
Maduro. But he was I think he thought that's what it was going to
He
be.
thinks like I don't know what he's thinking. He's like, well, who's I thought maybe we would both run it. Like, what cloud do you live on? Like, who's talking to you? Like, who are your advisors? Like,
Well, that demon, closeted queen, Lindsey Graham, is his fucking advisor who never met a war he didn't like when he's not being dicked in the ass by sex workers, supposedly.
but he, like, really, like, who is advising him? They're all just yes men, just yesing him to death. And then when things happen, they're like, whoops. Like, but this is a war. Like now you poked the hornet's nest, and it's not so much like, oh, whoops, I bombed you. Okay, I'm gonna take that back now. No, fucking like there's a reason why Iran doesn't trust us.
Mhm.
This is a reason. Obama had a game plan, and a lot of people did mistrust, like, oh, they were doing stuff, backhandedly. Like, no, there was inspections, and
There were inspections, and this was a deal that, by all
it
accounts,
took a
was working.
long time.
And it was working,
Yeah.
and it was working right up until the first part of the Trump administration, and even his Secretary of the State at the time, Rex Tillerson, said it was working and advised him to keep it, and which of course he ignored. And so that's part of how we got here. But I also think he is now, uh, he just likes to see bombs, and it's like a video game. It's like you said, and he's got that demon queen, Lindsey Graham, in his ear who, when he's not having sex with gay
Well,
prostitutes, is getting involved with
he's
wars.
well, I just it's not just Lindsey Graham. It's Pete Hess, like his Secretary of Defense or War, whatever he is.
When he's not drunk.
So, but and they have an issue, like, by getting involved with Iran, you mess up you shift other things, like their supporters, like, what's going to happen in regards to like uh, it's not okay that Russia goes in and invades Ukraine, but it's okay that we go in and bomb, like
Well, well, we have no moral high ground at all for any of that. China's like, great, now we can go into Taiwan, and
yes,
nothing is going
it's
to,
going to
yeah.
shift. It's going, and I was listening to Ted Cruz today on POTUS, and he has this fantasy that if all goes well, like in Cuba and Venezuela and Iran, we're going to have a fundamental shift that we haven't seen since 9/11. And I'm sorry, Ted Cruz, you're wrong. Like, I, I think you are being idealistic. You can, like, it's like this conservative, like Donald Trump is being idealistic. Like he's going to go in and drop a few bombs, and Iran's going to go, "Oh, okay, I give. All right, yeah, I won't bother you anymore." Okay,
Nancy's comedian side is on full display
I guess
tonight.
so. But I just listen to them. Like, really, really, this is how you think things are going to go down. Like, they don't trust us. Have you read a history book? Have you read the history of Iran? This is not the first time we've fucked with them,
No.
So
No.
they don't trust us
No.
for good reason.
Yeah.
And we don't trust them for good reason. So, uh,
Oh, I know. It's just such a shit show. It's such a clusterfuck, the whole thing. And I grew up. in a time of just never-ending Middle Eastern wars, and I'm just hoping that this doesn't become that. And although I am hearing that the draft, not the draft, but the voluntary enlistment age is now being raised 35. The maximum is 35 to 42 now.
Oh,
That's so, I don't know what that's all about, but hey, if they want to get me into shape by going into boot camp and all that, I'm right within that age range, so
no,
who
don't do
knows?
that. But well, that it's just a mess. It's
Yeah.
so by bombing Iran, aside from the fact of the casualties, they bombed a girls' school, and in regards to the casualties of the people, Iranian people are they're smart people, but
But civilians have nothing to do with the
with
issues between the United States and Iran or Israel. And
which is
so
the same thing
it,
with
Gaza, and
Gaza,
you
and
know,
also the same thing what's going on with Cuba.
yeah.
The people who are bringing over supplies are now being detained at the airport in Miami. They took their phones
Mm.
and they took pictures of their journals and their photographs, and they're holding them. Um, I don't know if they've let them go because they went over to bring supplies to the Cuban people. This is a situation where we've had a problem with the Cuban government since the 50s, but this is not about the Cuban people. What we're doing over there is we're destroying, you know, Cuba
Hospitals.
hospitals, like the hospitals over there are not allowed to get fuel and electricity, so people are dying in hospitals because they can't get and for what reason? Why are we doing this? Because you want to strangle them so you can dictate what kind type of government. And this is what Ted Cruz was like, if we could have a friendlier government. We started to. Barack Obama opened up diplomatic relations with Cuba. And I was in Cuba and people were beginning to thaw. Like there was a thaw. Was it 100%? No, but we started to exchange. They started to see uh development begin in their country. It was a beginning, and he just they just want to go in there and reinstall a new government. You're not going to help the Cuban people like that.
Well, with Cuba, like Iran, like Venezuela, maybe like Greenland, Trump views this as just a video game slash reality show. It's just all
And
about
he's
the
entitled to it.
yeah, and it's just about the entertainment value of it. He likes to see things go boom. He likes to kidnap the leaders. He likes to have the pageantry of the military standing behind him. But this is not somebody who would ever understand or and has even degraded the bravery of service members by calling them suckers and losers, and has degraded war heroes like John McCain and others. And so he is all about talking about might is right, but when the call comes knocking at his door, he's got bone spurs.
Yeah. What threat does Cuba have on America right now?
Zero.
None.
None.
None. When was the last time Cuba invaded the United States?
None.
Last problem we had with Cuba was with the missile crisis, which was really more about the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And
In
we,
1962.
yeah,
Literally
okay, half the
1962.
people weren't even, you weren't even born.
No. Yeah. Well, Barack Obama, I said on last week's episode, he had a really good quote when he opened up diplomatic relations. He said that I am not going to spend time as president fighting battles and wars from 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that was a sound policy.
I think if they would have allowed it to thaw and they would have had some openness, maybe, and then in a few years they could stop and talk about maybe elections
Hmm.
and government but but that's up to the Cuban people. That's not up to the United States. They want to reinstall like the
Batista?
yeah, like the hotel people and no, that's a long time ago. And if you visit Cuba, it, it it's a different country, but the embargo certainly does strangle it, and it strangles it a lot. The United States would, um, why can't we just be nice to them? Nice to them. What if
Well,
we
these will like all
and we need
things.
cigar? That's what we get out of it, right? Be nice to them. We'll get cigars, and their rum is amazing. So
Well, and like all things Trump, the cruelty is the point, and the exercise of might and power and the show of dominance and using violence and depravity to show that is the point. And so that is, I don't expect kindness or diplomacy or any kind of rational thought.
because he's a
Uh,
cruel man.
yeah, or
He's going
any,
to hell.
yeah, well, and he knows it. He always says
I
it.
think he should say it.
Yeah, and he knows it. So, but on a light, well, not on a lighter note, but on a less grave, although still terrible note, Bill Maher is getting the Mark Twain prize at the Kennedy Center. How convenient.
Um, I have some things to say about that you may not
Ugh,
like,
yeah,
but I'm
go ahead.
curious. All right. Well, I like Bill Maher. I've been watching Bill Maher since he's been doing this show, and I used to go over to my grandmother's, and I used to tape it for my grandmother, and then we go over and watch it together. So and that was in the 90s. So I've been watching him. Now, recently, I don't like some of the things he says. I don't like the way he talks about um, like Generation Z generation, what do they call
Gen
it?
Z.
Gen Z, right? I don't like the way he talks about them. He sounds like an old curmudgeon.
Hmm.
I don't like his viewpoints on Israel. And I don't like his kind of machismo, blah blah blah. But with that said, I do like the fact that he has a lot of different voices on that show. I like listening, I like the fact that Margie Taylor Greene was on or Bill Barr was on. Um, and there are some people on that I like that he brings other people on. Some people won't come on the show, which is totally up to them. Sometimes I listen to his show, I'm like, what a friggin' asshole, but I still watch him. And I like new rules. I think that's funny. I don't particularly enjoy his regular stand-up, but I like his show. And if that's what he's getting the Mark Twain Award for, I don't think it's just for the fact that he had dinner with Donald Trump, because I also heard Donald Trump decided not to give him the award and then he gave it back. I don't know how true that is. I haven't looked that up factually, but I read that. So he changed his mind because Donald Trump got pissed off at him because he criticized him after he went and had dinner with him he
Yeah.
publicly criticized, he's still critical of the administration.
Oh yeah. Well, I view it.
So
Yeah.
as far as the Mark Twain Award is concerned, I look at the people who have won. Two of my personal comedic heroes, Jon Stewart and Dave Chappelle, and so I'm
Well,
fulfilled in that. And Bill Maher, I've watched all my life. I'm not that outraged. I'm like, okay, he's
Well,
been
I
around
view
long.
well, I view it as something different because I think this is all part of the Trump agenda to reshape media. Because you have, and he actually posted, he's not being shy about it, the president. He posted on Truth Social, President Trump is reshaping the media. I'll put this on our show notes, the graphic, but he brags about Stephen Colbert leaving CBS, Terry Moran out at ABC, Chuck Todd out at NBC, Jim Acosta out at CNN. So big decline in mainstream media
That's what he is.
reading. Well, I know, but I'm just saying this is only one part of it. PBS defunded, Joy Reid out at MSNBC. Reforms, these are reforms, and basically the reforms are just his buddies are
What was
consolidating.
Bill Maher went in
Oh, I'll
wait,
explain. I'll
okay.
explain. Yeah, the Ellisons have taken over CBS, and Paramount and Warner Brothers, and CNN will very likely be Fox News 2.0 very soon. And Rupert Murdoch, of course, owns Fox News and the media empire that goes there. Uh, Elon Musk and the tech bros own the social media platforms. And so what we're seeing with Trump in the media is a corporate autocracy, basically consolidating under very few billionaires who are his political allies or think they could get something from him. And
What's that got
that's,
to do with Bill Maher?
oh, I'm coming to it, don't worry.
Okay.
And so that's one part of the strategy is that corporate consolidation. Another part is, forcing government agencies like the FCC to go after political opponents like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and all of the late night hosts who criticize him. And then another part is flattery and charm. Uh, he if he uses the carrot, which is the flattery and charm, and then he uses the stick, the power of the state, which he's done to Jimmy Kimmel and to Colbert, among others. And with Bill Maher, he's using carrot. Oh, let's invite him to dinner. Let's give him the award. And Bill Maher always complains about the fact that he never wins an Emmy, and so let's give him that. And so I think this is part of his overall plan to consolidate the media into
Watch
figures. Oh,
watch Bill Maher tomorrow and see what he has to say because
I watch him
I
on
think people
I
look
watch him on his show and on his podcast, and there is a glee about him when he's ripping the left.
because he's
But his
he criticizes Donald Trump a lot. He criticizes him a lot. In fact, the last last week when I watched, he was complaining because he was calling him a jerk on his Truth Social because he was criticizing him. He was going after Bill Maher because Bill Maher was criticizing him. Bill Maher, I don't like a lot of things that he says lately, and I I his personality wise, but Bill Maher does not go, oh, and stroke him. He
no, but he
doesn't stroke
no,
him,
but
but he'll go sit with him.
the criticism of Trump I noticed this time around from Bill Maher is not as fervent as it was. It's much more fervent when he's talking about trans athletes. It's much more fervent when he's talking about Palestinian people who want Palestinians to be, free and live side by side with Israelis and have their own autonomy. He's much more fervent when he's talking about woke culture. The criticism of Donald Trump, while he does criticize him, it's not
But
nearly,
that's what has always been.
that's not what animates him lately. It's the left that has animated him, and the
But that's who Bill
0.5%
Maher
of trans
is.
athletes. I mean,
But that's not Bill Maher didn't do that because Donald Trump told him to. That's his positions.
oh, I know that. Oh, I know those are his positions, but I also think, like I said, authoritarians with the media, they have a number of moves that they make. Here, it's the corporate oligarchy. Well,
I
we don't like you. We won't approve your merger.
I think
Like,
he gave him that award because maybe because he's been to dinner with him, and it's kind of like, well, maybe we could give it to him.
well, the cat, well, and the, well, and
Because
he,
who else is going to maybe accept it? Number
yeah,
one. Well, that's the other thing too. Like if he gave it, let's say, he gave it to Jimmy, the Mark Twain Award went to Jimmy Kimmel. Seriously, like just say like he got or Stephen Colbert. Like,
yeah.
let's say, do you think Stephen Colbert would show up at the Kennedy Center
God, I hope not.
with
I hope not.
Donald Trump?
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't think so. So probably he would be like, all right, well, who could we give it to who probably might show up?
Yeah.
Bill Maher.
Well, I'm
But
hoping.
Bill Maher's been around long enough.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I know. Well, like I said, I think this is just one part of the authoritarian strategy to rein in media. Use the power of the state to deny mergers and maybe go after broadcasting licenses and have allies take over major outlets so this way they won't criticize you. Uh, have the major personalities like Joy Reid and Colbert and others forced out. Uh, Basically have and then prop up voices, who are willing
well,
to.
those meters are going elsewhere. Look at Don Lemon. He's going.
Oh, I know, but I
In
think
fact, I think he's better for it
oh
now.
yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think the danger is that, even though more people are going to the podcast space and other outlets,
There's a shift in conservative media. That's the shift. But as far as, you know, uh, I'm a smart person. I could sit there and watch CBS and see the difference. But I can also see when CBS is still reporting factual news. Do you know what I'm saying? They're still reporting factual
well, for
news.
now,
Oh, they still are.
Until Barry Weiss gets a hold of it, and
Okay, all right.
then
But I still watch CBS. I still watch 60 Minutes, and it's still telling me the truth. But the problem is I have to listen. I have to, they have to show me something else. I'm like, really? Why are we concerned about this right now? Like, I'm not prepared.
well, I think
But
like a
they're not telling me misinformation, which is. that's when I'm going to get really concerned. Like areas like Fox who give misinformation. I don't watch that because it's untrue.
Well, CBS, 60 Minutes, Barry Weiss pulled that CCOT report. CBS
We
under
still
the
got that information.
oh, we did, but it was, despite their best
Yeah,
efforts.
but some people quit over it,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. But they're, what's his, the guy who left CBS Mornings, he, he's not like telling us not factual information. So um that's where I'm going to become a little concerned, but that's mainstream media. And
Oh,
so
I just, as getting back to Bill Maher, I'm just concerned again that this is just part of, a strategy, part of the strategy to rein in the media, not in this case, not through using the power of the state or
even
through,
the guy who ran for Texas
yeah,
last week,
Talarico.
yeah,
Yeah.
Tallarico.
Yeah.
So
And so, yeah, but I'm just worried that this is just, well, with some people will use the stick and then with others will use the carrot because they're charmed and they'll go
I
along
just
with us.
personally think that he's probably the only person who might show up. Like who else could he give that award to? It's like, and I don't think Bill Maher is not deserving. I think he's been around for a long time. I think he's done a lot for political talk, comedic wise. You know, is he's not my hero like someone like Jon Stewart, The Daily Show. That is someone who I aspire to. But I've also watched Bill Maher most of my life, and I still do. Lately, I don't like a lot of the shit, the positions he's taking, but I still watch him. And, a couple of times I'm like, oh, shut up.
Yeah. Well,
Like him,
he's
like
a
that's how,
curmudgeon. He's a
yeah.
curmudgeon, and like I said, I just think I'm concerned, just as somebody who's studied history and knows a little bit about authoritarianism, that this is just a strategy
You ever
to
watch Gutfeld? He would have showed up.
well,
You
Gutfeld,
ever
well,
watch Gutfeld?
the one on Fox.
Yeah.
I do well only the Jessica Tarlov tips because those are the clips because those are the only ones I could really bear. But
It's like I'm like, I can't watch him because
I just love the look on his face whenever Jessica Tarlov like schools him. He looks like, somebody just walked in on him jerking off or
no.
something. It's just like because every time she, serves the facts, he's just sort of like, "Whoa."
But well, in the company of himself, like with
Mhm.
his people, he doesn't have to deal with her. But on his talk show, they could just. But it's a it's his show, and so he has like his little right wing funny people, and like Bill Maher. It's his show. He does what he wants, and it's like you either watch or you don't. And I know a lot of people who don't watch him anymore because they.
That's right.
And I don't watch him religiously like I used to. I used to watch him every Friday. Like I used to watch him live every Friday. Now I'm like, oh, you
Well,
know,
he says, he says a lot. Well, because the a show like the HBO one is a little bit more limited in terms of what you could do because of the times constraints and all that. But like, it's more
but
illustrative to
afterwards on YouTube is pretty good.
it is. But I listen to his podcast sometimes, though.
Well,
That
that's a different show.
no, I know, but I get more
He
insight
smokes
into
weed with
he
people.
does,
He's
but he
a
gets but he gets into but it's his views though are much he expounds on them much more than he does
yeah,
here.
that's a different show.
And so like it's so when I do watch him, it's typically on the podcast because I learn a little bit more because there's more they could do in that kind of a format. But onto
I don't listen to his podcast at all.
yeah.
Occasionally I'll see a clip here and there, but I don't watch him for that reason because I think he's a jerk in that aspect. So why am I going to look? I'd rather watch him politically. I like the fact that he has people on from both sides of the fence. I think
Oh, he does there too, though. He's like, I mean, he had Charlie
but
Kirk on there
but
on that.
it's not, I don't know. It's more about I'm a guy, I'm gonna have another guy on, we're gonna smoke pot and talk shit. Like that
Some
doesn't
of
appeal to me. That doesn't
some of it is. I mean, some of those conversations though were really interesting. I mean, he had
I like the format
because he had
of his
yeah
HBO
because
better.
he had Kara Swisher on. He's had Candace Owens on, who's another lunatic. I mean, and so he's had interesting people on there too.
Orbit on.
Yeah.
She behaved herself.
Yeah. Well, I think she sort of knew her audience a little bit there, and so I think there was a little bit of that. But I definitely want to talk about the local stuff because
All right.
we do have an interesting primary coming up for Congress. I went in the past couple of weeks
You went to
to
both of them.
I did.
One of them.
I went to the campaign launch of Mike DeSillis, and then a week later, I went to last night. Actually, I went to the campaign launch of Allison Ziogas, who recently entered the race for Congress. And so, both of them had really good vibes. Both of them had people who were really enthusiastic supporters, and both candidates, I think, were compelling in their own ways. Mike,
And one of them better beat Nicole.
yes, absolutely. And I will say, though, about Allison's event, the one thing I was encouraged by when it came to that event is that there were people there that I had never met before. And the reason why I say I'm encouraged by that is because I've been going to Democratic Party events for over 16 years now, and oftentimes it's the same cast of characters that you see. But here were people I'd never met before.
Well,
And
all the electricians were there.
well, yeah, there
Those
were.
usually go to Democratic meeting.
No. And so there were a lot of people there who were there as members of her union.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like a broad coalition because you had members of her union, but then you also had SEAC members there, which is the shirt I'm wearing, the Staten Island Action Coalition.
Oh, they were there? Okay.
I saw Elena Arena, who was a friend of our podcast. She was there. And then, some of the party faithful that usually show up to these things. So it was a
The
nice mix of
troopers.
people. And and again, I'm encouraged anytime I go to a Democratic event and there's people who I've never seen before.
Yes, that's
Mhm.
always a good thing.
And,
So,
and I did get to speak to both candidates, and Mike is on our podcast that was on the
mhm.
episode before
Look
this one.
for Allison to come on.
Yes, and we're,
Alice.
yeah.
Alice. Yes. I don't know her, so sorry. I don't know her.
That's a very
So,
Mariah Carey
yeah.
response. I don't know.
No, no, I mean, I don't. I
Oh
don't
no,
know.
that was what Mariah said when she was asked about J-Lo. I don't know
Oh, okay.
her.
Well, few people don't. She is a newcomer, so
She is, and yeah, I did speak to her for a little bit last night, and I was encouraged by that. We kind of bonded over our union
am I
membership.
diva? Is that what you're saying? You call me a diva?
Yeah, why not? I am too. Like
Okay.
I am too. We're
Sorry.
divas. We are divas. We are
I
divas.
don't see myself as a diva. You can be a diva. Well, all right.
I'm a very much a diva.
All right.
Like
Okay.
so. Yeah, well, it was interesting. I did speak to her, for a
Mhm.
few minutes. She did come over. I did tell her about our podcast, which she already heard about from her campaign manager.
Really?
She did. And then I gave her our business card. She introduced me to her family, which was really nice. And she told me why she was running, and
Why is she running?
well, she wants to bring working class leadership back to Congress for Staten Island
And
and working class interests. And
that's a dem
well, she
that's a
wants, and she wants to be, a representative for people outside of the, political class. And she did make a compelling case. Mike did too when I went to his
because
event as
he's still
well.
too
Yeah,
working class
yeah,
leadership.
absolutely. And
But Democrats are for the working class, so that's a Democratic position. So
well, it is, but she's also, and if you see in her ads, she's positioning herself, even though she's running as a Democrat, she's positioning herself as being outside of the political class and, not in the
she's a
speculative.
Democrat.
No, she is, but she's saying that
She's running in the Democratic primary.
yeah, but she's also saying that members of both parties have failed, the people of the United States. That's true. I would say so too. And I did speak to her a little bit about maybe having new leadership in both houses of Congress.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things we hope to talk about when she comes on eventually. And so it was a good event. I got to see, people who were party faithful for years, but I also met new people, which was good. And Mike's event was also terrific. I did an interview, which I posted on our social media site with the Grice Report.
Mhm.
And Mike made a really compelling case for affordability, and he really tied it into the constitutional and government crisis that we're all going through.
Well, I like primaries and
Hmm.
I think they're healthy. And but my main objective is that we have a candidate who's going to beat Nicole Maliotakis.
Yeah.
And for me personally, the person who's going to beat Nicole Maliotakis is going to be able to not hide on the issues, but confront her on the current issues that we are dealing with and
Mhm.
how Nicole Maliotakis has not addressed the issues. Because so if both candidates for the working class, they're going to be able to specifically talk about how what Nicole has not done for working class people on this borough in regards to when we talk about taxes, okay, we talk about tax breaks. What I haven't seen any tax breaks. So for work, I'm working, I haven't seen any. So let's deal with that issue. We talk about the SAVE Act, how that's voter suppression and not, everybody, not many people disagree about having some form of ID. Like, but in regards to if ID is an issue getting, then introduce in with an act on monies to help people get
Or
that
or
ID.
you could give people a set just an ID just for voting the way Georgia did when they passed their law. They
Yeah.
gave people voter IDs when they did that. And so I think that that's also a reasonable compromise solution. But I hope that we, when she comes on, that we get to ask her about that. We talked about this with Mike DeSillis,
Yes, we
among
did.
many other issues. Uh, and so it's going to definitely be a spirited
But on a federal
primary.
level, we need
Yeah.
to get rid of the red in our, we because the fact that having a Republican majority in this country has given President Trump kind of carte blanche to just do whatever he wants. And as we can see, it's hurting this country immensely. Now, we are Democrats, we are progressive, we are not on his, we're
We're
not
not
mad,
aligned. We're not
we're
aligned.
not aligned, but clearly there's a lot of things that he's doing. Like, all right, fine, I didn't get a tax break, right? But, oil is still expensive, the supermarket is still expensive, you know, affordability,
Oh
it's
well, he's making a killing,
and
and
yeah,
he's making a killing. His net worth has gone up by 3 or 4 billion since he's been back in office.
right, but my personal issues have not been addressed. And if that's the case, then a lot of Staten Islanders' issues have not been addressed. So how are we going to defeat Nicole Maliotakis? And so the
Well,
primary is a great, healthy way for the two of them to, talk about, you know, how they're going to do that.
yeah, well, I would say, Nicole definitely a few weeks ago was breathing a sigh of relief when the Supreme Court, did her a solid and kept the district lines the way they are. But I would say that she should not get comfortable based on both events that I went to, because both events that I went to had diverse people there from all kinds of backgrounds who are willing to show up and do petitions and make phone calls and go door knocking and getting out the vote.
And yeah, if they can motivate
Yeah.
Democrats to come out, because like I said when we were talking to Mike, my gauge, and it's every time when when where I vote is crowded, the Democrat wins the congressional seat. And if it's just average, I'm like, Nicole's sticking and it's happened. So the key here is getting people out to vote as opposed to just saying, I don't like, like staying home
Yeah. And well,
because
and
MAGA's going to vote. Like
yeah.
we have a very strong MAGA base here on Staten Island, and they're gonna
Well,
go vote. But we need to get other people out to vote
well,
and vote for them.
oh, absolutely. But, I also think MAGA has a strong base when Trump is on the ballot. And so I also think that without Trump on the ballot, they could cause some of them to stay home too. And we have to exploit
I would
that.
hope so.
And we have to exploit that because we've seen in off-year elections when Trump is not on the ballot, Republicans tend to do worse.
Yeah.
Um, in 22, it was a red wave that never happened. It was kind of a red spotting. And so that was one example. 2018, they lost the House. 2020, Trump lost. So I think when Trump is not on the ballot for the most part, he Republicans don't uh, don't aren't successful because they have to run on their own records, and without him there to lie and to spin and to gaslight their voters, they have nothing else to go on. And Nicole is inextricably tied to Trump. And so every horrible thing he does, she owns.
And she supports it. So
Hmm.
it's not even like she defends it, and she's going around on talk shows right now defending the Save Act. He wants the Save Act. Why? Because it's their only hope of staying in power. So they're going to do voter suppression, and she's going to bottle it up and label it as, voter fraud, which is totally not true. It's not the level of fraud in this country is so minuscule that act that
Well, what is
act's not
she?
gonna.
Well, if it's fraudulent, I want to know what she knows that the intelligence community and the Justice Department and the Supreme Court and 63 other courts and private agencies who audited this a million times, did hand recounts, all of that stuff. What does she know that they don't?
Right.
And if she knows something, then she needs to present it. And if not,
Because they don't.
put
They
up
don't
or
believe it.
put up or shut up. And so and because they don't, and she's full of shit.
It's called voter
Yeah.
sup- we have a history in this country of voter suppression. You know, so we look at the 15th Amendment, and then, we have Jim Crow laws, and, the grandfather clause, and then we have poll tax and literacy tests. That was voter suppression. And this is a new poll tax. If people are now going to have to walk around and order new ID, like get passports, this is a poll tax, no matter how you look at it. If you're going to include in that bill, making it easier for people to get ID, that I have not heard that
Hmm.
from Republicans at all. I haven't heard any of that in their bill. So this is voter suppression. Make no bones about it. And we have to keep saying that word. It's voter suppression.
Well, yeah, it is
It's
voters.
not about fraud.
It's not about fraud, and in fact, this is just it's voter suppression. It's a poll tax. And my concerns around the election are not so much the Save Act. That's not going to pass. My concern
But
is,
he's not going, he wants it passed, and he's not allowing anyone to do anything unless this gets passed.
well, he's not doing anything anyway. He's not in his presidency thus far, the second time around, he's not relied on Congress for much of anything except to give him what he wants. And so
He said he's not signing anything.
well, that's sort of a empty threat because he always blinks, he tacos whenever things get rough. And so
Let's do it.
I think
And they're not doing anything.
my concern mainly around the election are a couple of things. One, uh, whether it's going to be free and fair. I don't, I hope we need to look out and see that ICE agents are not surrounding polls the way Steve Bannon wants them to be. We need to make sure Republican elected officials around the country, meaning in
Why do ICE agents need to be at the polls?
well, they'll make some bullshit case about illegal immigrants voting. That's what Tulsi Gabbard was doing in Fulton County. They're trying to make some case that there's foreign interference and that
That's
they
not
need to.
happening. It's
No, I know, but that's what they're going to try and do, and so we have to anticipate it. We have to anticipate it, and we have to tell the truth about it. And the truth is that it's a lie, and that we and in fact, in the Washington Post a few weeks ago, there was a report that Trump allies were working on a draft executive order, which would give him enormous power over elections. And now, of course, even if he does issue that order, it's going to be challenged in court. It's going to go through the process. It probably won't be enacted in time for the
I have no
midterms.
faith in that extreme. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to give him carte blanche on that.
No, I don't either. That's why I said like he may issue the order, but it's going to go through a
It,
legal
it,
process. And
People are going to be like, get the fuck out.
mhm,
Like really, like I think people are starting to realize that he's not doing anything. And you and I know this, but I'm talking about
the
people that,
average
like
person.
the person who, when we went and campaigned in Pennsylvania, where people were like, well, he's a businessman. I really want the economy to do better. Like those people right now have been going, oh my God, this guy's not, he's just not doing anything.
Well, and he inherited a good economy from Barack Obama, as all Republican presidents have done in recent memory. They inherit a good economy from a Democrat, and then they fuck it up.
Yeah.
And so,
And Joe Biden, we had inflation, we had COVID.
yeah,
Like he saved us from collapsing COVID.
yeah,
There's a few things I don't agree with what he did, but he didn't destroy the economy. That's a myth. That's something that Trump has said. And so that's the other thing we need to keep doing is just debunking what he
yeah.
says is not true.
And and as far as that's concerned, I think. we need to also be mindful of Republican election clerks in key swing counties around the country because they might face pressure from the president and his allies not to certify elections. And so we have to put pressure on Democratic leaders of those states, so secretaries of state, governors, to remove those officials if they refuse to certify a free and fair election in their state. And so those are the two fronts that I think we have to go at this election problem with, because the SAVE Act is bluster, it's rhetoric, it's not going to pass. They don't have the 60 votes, but this is going to be where I think the action is going to be. And so that this is where we need to put a lot of our efforts and our energies, because inevitably the SAVE Act will not have 60 votes, it won't pass, and then they'll go on to something else.
Uh,
So
so
on that note,
on that note,
no Kings on Saturday, March
see you there.
28th.
So
Yeah.
the logistics are 1 o'clock, Victory Boulevard and Royal Oak, where the ball field is over
Mhm.
there. And they're gonna march down Victory Boulevard to Clove Road
Yeah.
and then make that left into Clove Lakes Park.
Yeah, so it's a similar route to last time.
Yeah, except this time we're not meeting in front of Nicole's office. We're meeting more at Royal Oak. And I don't know what that word was that they used on the sign, Royal something,
Yeah, no, it
like a
was
Park Slope word. I don't know,
Park
the
Slope.
person who made that was from Park Slope. But it's Royal Oak. It's at the corner of Royal Oak Avenue and Victory Boulevard.
Hmm.
And then we're gonna march down Victory Boulevard.
Yes, and I
1
want
p.m., 1 to 3, 2 hours. Everyone, let's see you there. We had a great peaceful rally the last time. So,
upwards of 2,000 people showed up, and I want to thank specific groups. I want to specifically thank the Staten Island Action Coalition
oh yes.
because they are the ones who are largely the ones who are behind the organization of this No Kings March. And they also, they encouraged us and they recruited us to be sponsors of this No Kings event.
We
So
are participants as well. We're
we
going to
will.
be.
We're going to have a special role, which will be a surprise, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And a
because
surprise. You
you'll
gotta come and see. Gotta
yes, and
come and
then
see.
and pay attention to our Instagram too,
Oh,
because we're going to have pictures there too. So,
yes.
this is going to be a really a call to action. This is going to be a rally
Yep.
cry.
Excuse me.
This is going to be a moment where the opposition in Staten Island will rise up, where we will say we've had enough. We are not going to be compliant with MAGA fascism. We are not going to stand by while healthcare is gutted by our representatives and while perpetrators in the Epstein files are shielded and while Donald Trump gets dog walked into another Middle Eastern quagmire. We are not going to stand by while any of that happens. And so we hope to see everybody there again. We're part of the movement that
Be
shows,
there or be square.
yeah, we're part of the movement that shows that Staten Island is not all MAGA. And I think we have to show that in full force with participants showing up and speaking out and speaking loud.
Yeah. So we'll see you Saturday, 28th, 1 o'clock.
And on that note, this is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage.
And I'm Nancy Richardson. It's past our bedtime.
So we'll see you Saturday.
See you Saturday.